Okay, let's start. So, hello everyone, can you hear me? If you can hear me, can you give me a yes? Okay, thank you, thank you, thank you. So, welcome back to our fifth lecture. Okay, today we are going to have some discussion about research ethics and misconduct. So, as we know that research and development (R&D) is one of the major activities in all engineering industries. I think some of you may involve in R&D work, right, in the company. Not only at work, in fact, some of you, your program may have a research component, and also some of you, if you have chosen to do the dissertation, you also need to finish a research study before you can graduate. So research is around us. And when doing research project, okay, the first requirement, of course, is to ensure we can obtain the research result, okay, in the specified requirement. The second thing we need to ensure is that, as important as the first one, is we need to make sure that people really trust our research results. It's really the case. In some situations, people do not trust our research result because nowadays people can make any tricks to find the results they want. Say, for example, you're now as a R&D engineer. So you're working on developing a new product for a customer. So after finishing the research project, now you are going to present your research result to that customer. But since your system has not been really manufactured, so it's not a real product. That's why all you can do is only to demonstrate your research prototype. So whether the research prototype can be manufactured into a real product is already a question. And whether your research result is really valid without copying from other people is another question. But at the end, your customer still want to do business with you. Why? Because your customer trusts your company, okay, due to the reputation of the company, or due to the reputation of your team. Or maybe your team is very famous in the field, so people trust the ability and also the conduct, okay, of the team in completing this research. So sometimes the success in research is not only about what you have done, but also the reputation where you affiliate. Having a right conduct in research has a direct consequence on the credibility of the research result. Say, for example, if you are known to produce fake results, or a company is known to copy results from other companies. So do you think your customer will trust your research result and do business with you? Some of you may say that, oh, I'm just a small potato in my company. I don't need to face my customer. So in this case, the first thing you need to do is to obtain the trust of your boss. Okay, if your boss does not trust your research result, okay, I don't think you have any prospect in your company. So does your boss trust your research result? Obviously, normally yes, right? We always trust our fellow engineers. But if, say, for example, you are known to also copy research results from other people, or you also fabricate research data, okay, in your research. So does your boss really trust you? I think it would be very, very difficult, right? Some of you may think that, if I present all the detail of my research work to my boss, and if my boss read the details of my research work, then he will know that this research is a new one, not copying from other people. But you may be disappointed. I think you may have encountered this situation before. You will find that your boss seldom asks you to present the detail of your R&D work. They just ask for progress. They just ask for result. Okay. So some of you may think that, my boss must be very lazy. He doesn't want to spend time to read the details of my R&D work. Okay. Your boss may be lazy, but not for this reason. Okay. It's just because the research world does not run this way. Basically, the whole R&D world is running in a honor system because most research activity are conducted based on trust. Your boss trusts you, that's why he does not need to ask you to present your program code, to present your circuit, or your communication with your client, etc. He just asks for result, okay, because your boss trusts you. But if your boss does not trust you, then he need to read all the detail of the work. Or if your boss does not trust all team member, then he need to read all the details of all team member. I don't think he has time to do any other thing in this case. Let's put it in a bigger scope. If the president of a company does not trust your boss, then the president of the company need to read all the work of all employees in this company. It's really mission impossible. So if we don't have trust, the advancement of knowledge and technology will be much slower. But why we can trust other people research work? Or, for example, why the president of PolyU can trust the professor of PolyU? It's just because all professors of PolyU were recruited from some renowned universities in the world, that we believe that they have gone through a kind of training in research ethics that most researchers are followed in the world. It's also a reason why sometimes we cannot trust the research work of some people in some part of the world. Not because there are many research misconduct cases in those regions, just because we do not know whether the people there has gone through that kind of research ethics training. So I think some of you are a local student, okay, you choose to come to Hong Kong to study. I think you make a good choice because at the moment, at least the research world of Hong Kong, okay, is still trusted by all people in the world. This reputation is built by many people in the last couple of years. But reputation can be ruined in just a few days. If there are a few research misconduct cases happening in Hong Kong, then our research work will not be trusted by other people in the world, and all of us will be affected. That's why, for this reason, anybody who is found to have breached the trust, in particular due to research misconduct, we usually have very serious penalty. For students, they may be deregistered. For employee, they will be dismissed, and for professionals, they will be life disqualified. I mentioned about research misconduct all the time. So what is really counted as a research misconduct? Usually we refer to these three main acts: fabrication, falsification, plagiarism. I think you know fabrication, right? Just to make up data or information without going through a scientific experimentational process. Just fabricate some data without doing the experiment. Okay, so this one is easy to understand. Falsification may need some discussion. So whenever we are doing research, we want to propose some new idea, new system, okay, then we need to make some hypothesis. And in order to prove those hypotheses to be correct, we need to do experiment. And if those proposed ideas are correct, then you will get many positive results to support your hypothesis. However, not all the time we propose some correct thing. When the proposed idea is not correct, then you will get many negative results. Okay. However, some people, perhaps they really want to publish their proposed idea. That's why they just cover up all the negative results and publish only the positive result. This is what we call the falsification. Okay, it's a kind of research misconduct, the same as fabrication, that need to be strictly prohibited. Okay, in daily life, we may often falsify. Say, for example, you go to take photo with your girlfriend, okay? So you falsify to your girlfriend that you are an expert photographer. You throw away all the bad photos and then show her only the good photos, okay? Of course, falsify to your girlfriend may not be a big problem, okay? But falsify in a research project is a serious offense, okay? This one need to be serious, need to be strictly prohibited. Besides covering up the negative data, these few practices are also count as falsification. For example, if you build an experiment environment that favors the proposed idea, or you adjust the working condition of the testing equipment to let them give positive testing results, or you tailor the survey group to ensure the survey result favor the hypothesis. All these things are counted as falsification. Okay, I know in some research work, research area, you need to adjust the experiment environment such that you can see the results more easily. But in this case, you need to spell out in your report or in your publication about such modification of your testing environment. If you don't do it, then you will be counted as falsification, which is a kind of research misconduct. The next one, plagiarism. Plagiarism, of course, is also counted as a research misconduct. I think you know what is plagiarism, right? Using other people's work and other sources without giving proper acknowledgement of the sources. Okay, that is just copy other people's idea without citation. I know many of you may not really want to copy any people's work intentionally, but sometimes you may accidentally copy other people's work. Here I would like to introduce two situations. One is about using generative AI. Nowadays, many people want to use generative AI to help draft report, even paper. But AI has a habit that if they will just directly copy other people's work and report to you. So if you use those things given by AI directly, you may accidentally commit plagiarism. That's why I warned you before, when you prepare your assignment, although you are allowed to use AI to help writing part A, okay? But if you directly use the statement given by AI and put it in your assignment, you may not pass the similarity test due by turning in. So my advice is try to revise the sentence first before you put it into your submission. Another situation you need to pay attention to is self-plagiarism. What is self-plagiarism? It is copying your own work. Yes, copying your own work still a research misconduct. Yeah, there are many situations that you may want to copy your own work. Let's say, for example, in the past, okay, anyway, in the academic, after I finish doing a research work, we often want to publish our research work in terms of a academic paper. Okay, we may publish our paper in different venues. Sometimes we want to publish our idea in a academic journal because we want to have a permanent record of our publication. Sometimes we want to publish our paper in an international conference because we want to discuss our research results with other peers in the field. So they are for different purposes. So in the past, many people will publish a single idea in both a journal and an international conference. So it's because it's doable because they are for different purposes. But in recent years, there are many professional organizations, such as IEEE societies. They may require there's a distinction between the journal paper and conference paper of an author. If there is a significant overlapping between the content of a journal paper and conference paper of an author, they will be considered as self-plagiarism. Then the paper will be rejected, and the case may be even reported to the president of the university. So all this is very serious. So make sure that if you have a chance to publish paper in some academic journal or international conference, try to look at the regulation, okay, for publication. See if they have any regulation about self-plagiarism. Okay, so how to avoid plagiarism? Okay, you know, citation. Okay, cite the source. Okay, cite the references. So that's why I asked you in your assignment, okay, you also need to do citation. Any idea not originated by you, then you should cite that. Okay, if you don't do it, you will commit plagiarism in your assignment. If you do not have a cite, then take a look at this web page. This web page is prepared by our library. Okay, it provides a lot of information about how to do citation, such as the format of citation, how to obtain the reference, etc. So when do we no need to cite? If you are discussing our own idea, finding an experimental result, or we are talking about some well-known facts, common knowledge, such as mothers of women, then you don't need to cite. So I mentioned research misconduct all the time. Does the research misconduct now is very serious, such that we should discredit our peers' research result? To answer this question, perhaps we need to answer this question first. How frequent does research misconduct occur? In fact, but this question is also very difficult to answer because many organizations nowadays, they do not want to report research misconduct cases because it may affect their reputation, it may even their research funding. So that's why usually there will not be direct indicator that can tell how frequent does research misconduct occur. We need to rely on some indirect indicator, such as the paper rejection rate. I mentioned before, in the academic world, after we finish the research work, we will publish paper. Okay, we will publish paper in journal or in international conference. After publishing a paper, in some situation, the journal or the conference will require us to retract our paper. Okay, usually is due to research misconduct, some problem in our paper, such as research misconduct. But sometimes the author themselves may also initiate the paper retraction because they may find some error in their paper. No matter what, paper retraction can be an indirect indicator to indicate the magnitude of research misconduct. It is kind of this way. It is a ratio of the number of papers required to be retracted after publication and the total number of published paper in that year. So it's reported in the format of X per 10,000 paper. So if that year the paper rejection rate is 20, it means that there are 20 papers per 10,000 paper need to be retracted. So what is the paper rejection rate in the last 10 years? So take a look at this figure. In this figure, the orange line is the paper rejection rate. Okay, and the blue bar are the volume of retraction from 2014 to 2022. So as you can see in this figure, the increase in the paper rejection rate from 2014 to 2018 is modest. However, since 2019, there's a dramatic increase in paper retraction. Okay, according to a report from Nature, Nature is a prestigious journal in the area of science and engineering. Many people want to publish paper there. According to the report from Nature in 2021, thousands of retracted paper can trace to paper mills from several countries, including China. What is paper mill? A paper mill is a business that's published poor or fake journal papers that seem to resemble genuine research, as well as sales authorship. Now, paper is very difficult to generate. So how this company generate those papers? They just use some AI tool. Okay, this AI tool just extract bits and pieces from different papers and put them together to form a fake paper. Okay, this paper mill company is not difficult to find. According to a report by Science Journal in 2022, they say that there's a Russian website that will provide the kind of paper mill paper, okay, for people to buy. Okay, so it's not easy to find. Since we are living in China, okay, so we may be curious what's the research misconduct situation in China. So take a look at this figure. This figure tells us the paper retraction rate in China and also the proportion of worldwide retraction by China from 2014 to 2022. The orange line here, again, is the paper retraction rate in China. And the blue bar indicate the proportion of worldwide retraction by China from these years. Again, from 2014 to 2019, the increase in the paper retraction rate is modest. But since 2020, the increase becomes dramatic. Take a look at this bar here in 2022. We saw that the proportion of worldwide retraction by China is 54%. That is, say, in that year, among all paper retraction papers, 54% come from China-affiliated authors. According to a report by Nature in 2024, they said that there were almost 17,000 retraction policy notice on papers with China-affiliated author since January 2021. And there's a very serious event in 2023. In that year, Wiley, I think you know this publisher, right? Wiley has a subsidiary called Hindawi. Hindawi in that year need to retract over 8,000 articles involving Chinese co-authors. This record-breaking number required Wiley to stop using this Hindawi brand. That simply closed down this brand for having so many papers need to be retracted. So this situation can be alarming. That's why many parties get together to help try to combat research misconduct. For example, dozens of publishers, they form a STM Research Integrity Hub, try to offer a holistic approach to detect offending manuscripts. For example, Wiley is developing an AI-powered paper mill detection service, a software system that can detect paper mill papers. So later on, when you submit paper to Wiley published journal, so your paper will also be checked by this AI-powered machine. Besides publisher, many different governments also have new policy to discourage research misconduct. For example, in 2024, China Ministry of Education issued a notice indicating that all China universities must declare all their retraction and launch investigation into misconduct cases. In the past, university can cover up all these paper retraction case and no need to report to anyone. Okay, but in 2024, China Ministry of Education required all China university to declare their paper retraction rate and launch investigation into misconduct cases. They need to explain whether the retraction was owing to misconduct or just an honest mistake initiated by the authors. And also, they require the first corresponding author to be responsible for the research misconduct case about this paper retraction. So now author cannot shift their responsibility to other co-authors. So if a researcher failed to declare their retracted paper and is later uncovered, they will be punished in terms of a salary cut, withdrawal of bonus, demotion, or time suspension for applying for research grant and rewards. So the penalty can be very serious. Besides penalty, we also need education. That's why many universities in the world have provided education programs for research personnel to understand the importance of research ethics. I don't know whether you are aware or not, how do you actually have subscribed to the Collaborative Institutional Training Initiative program called CITI, okay, since December 2023. This program is an online platform offering comprehensive training in research ethics and compliance. So you can subscribe to any of these training courses, okay, in order to know more about research ethics. So in fact, the nature of research misconduct, okay, is just dishonesty. So similar to many dishonesty cases, the research personnel involved in research misconduct, usually they just want to tell a small lie at the very beginning. They just want to make benefit of the trusting nature of the research world. However, when it goes unnoticed, the research personnel often need to tell a bigger lie in order to cover up the small lie that they originally made in order to sustain their career or the research status. And then later on, they need to make a bigger and bigger lie and impose a bigger and bigger pressure on the research personnel. One thing I'd like to remind you is that most research misconduct behavior will need to black and white record. So if you make a fake design, the design will be in the database. If you plagiarize in your thesis, then your plagiarized thesis can be found in the library according to you. So it means that even if your research misconduct is not noticed and penalized now, it does not guarantee that it will not be discovered some years later by your enemy. They will use that to attack you at a time that you don't want. In January 2024, there was a news that the president of Harvard University, Professor Claudine Gay, was forced to step down. Professor Gay was well regarded as the star of Harvard. So she was the first black president, okay, at Harvard University. Everybody thought that she would have a bright future at Harvard. However, after assuming a duty as president for a few months, she was forced to step down because she was accused for two major things. One of them is about plagiarism. She was found to have plagiarized in 57 of her publications, including her PhD thesis, published 20 years ago. So, sounds serious, right? But in fact, the whole thing may not be that serious because it is not about her research result. Professor Gay has a habit that she wants to quote the works of other people in her publication, just to let her publication look better. That is a kind of a decoration, okay, to decorate her publication. It's not about copying other people's research results. In normal situation, when we quote the works of other people, we will put a reference there. But Professor Gay failed to do so. Of course, it is still a kind of plagiarism, but not serious that just copying other people's research work. So some people often query why such a minor offense can lead to step down of a president of a university. But you never know because when you become important, any small mistake of you will be utilized by your enemy, okay, to attack you. They will exaggerate the importance of those small mistakes and then make it become very big such that you need to respond to them. You know, Professor Gay is the president of a university. Many students, many professors, okay, see it as an example. So if the president of a university commit plagiarism, it's difficult for her to be an example for the other students or professors in the university. That's why she had to resign. So you can see that any small mistake in research misconduct can still be a lifelong bad mark, okay, of one's career. In fact, the research misconduct of oneself may not only affect this guy, it may also affect the organization that he's working in and also the country that he lives in. Let me use this case to illustrate it. Hansin 1. Okay, what is Hansin? Hansin has ever been considered the biggest technological breakthrough in the microchip industry in China. It was claimed as the first China designed and made digital signal processing computer chip. What is a DSP chip? Digital signal processing chip, DSP chip, okay, is the kind of computer device that is good at calculation. I think you know what is CPU, right? CPU is a kind of computing chip that is good in process control. DSP chip is good at calculation because many DSP algorithms require numerical country. Okay, so that's why we need to have a special chip, specialized chip to do numerical calculation. That is a DSP chip. So Hansin 1 was claimed as the first China design and made DSP chip. However, it was all a fraud confirmed by the Chinese government after a detailed investigation. The main character of this case is Dr. Chen Jin. Okay, in this picture, he hold his Hans Zimmer chip in the news conference, and this is a Hans Zimmer chip. I think in recent years, you may have heard about a lot of news about US embargoed their IC technology to China, okay, and introduced a lot of problem to the China IC industry. Then many people blame the China government for not sensitive enough to build our own IC industry area such that we can have our own chip. But I think this kind of accusation may not totally accurate because in early 2000, China government had already made it a major priority to develop our own IC industry. Because at that time, China was spending billions of dollars buying foreign-made chip to put in electronic equipment. So China government actually at that time sponsored a lot of research project, a lot of company to develop IC system and product. One of them is Chen Jin. Chen Jin is a computer scientist. He earned his bachelor degree at Shanghai Tongji University in 1991. Then he moved to the US to study computer engineering at the University of Texas at Austin. In 1998, he got a PhD degree there and worked at Motorola Research Center as an engineer responsible for chip testing. But remember, chip testing only. Because later on, when he applied job to Shanghai Jiao Tong University, he claimed himself as a senior design manager in that company. So when Dr. Chen fly back to China to start his career at Shanghai Jiao Tong University in 2001, just within 2 years, he already announced that he could create a DSP with the capability of processing 200 million instructions per second. Nowadays, 200 million instructions per second, just a peanut. But for that year, it is already the state of the art. This astonished the whole chip manufacturing industry, not because only the performance of the chip, but also because Chen Jin can do it within 2 years. From zero, okay, Dr. Chen can develop a chip, manufacture it, design it, okay, to become a chip within just 2 years. This is just too fast. And Chen Jin does not only publish paper about his chip, he also tried to demonstrate the capability of his chip in a news conference. So in the news conference, he tried to use his chip to play MP3 and perform fingerprint recognition on the chip, not using computer, okay? Both playing MP3 and performing fingerprint recognition just on the capability of the chip. So due to that performance, Hansen chips were officially recognized as reaching the international high-end microprocessor chip standard. And also, Chen Jin was named as the Dean of Microelectronics School of Shanghai Jiao Tong University, similar to the Dean of the Engineering Faculty of PolyU. He also had his own university research institute and a few companies, all of them were heavily financed by the government. He was also named as a Changjiang Scholar. You know what is Changjiang Scholar, right? It's a title with privilege in China given to a select group of best young scholars. At that time, Chen Jin was only 35. He was one of the youngest Changjiang scholars at all time, actually. So with the financial support of the government, Chen Jin also announced in 2004 the creation of the even faster Hansen 2 and Hansen 3. The total research funding given by the government was up to 1 billion RMB, which is a lot of money at that time, to a single project. So everything seems to be smooth, but in December 2005, a whistleblower posted a message on the internet blog of the Tsinghua University. Not only that, the whistleblower also sent a lot of letters to different government organizations and also universities. So all of this just talk about the wrongdoing of Dr. Chen. So they triggered the government to form an investigation panel to understand if the allegation was true. Then after 3 months of investigation, the panel concluded that there exists serious forgery and dishonor behavior in the case for obtaining huge financial support from the government. So what actually Chen Jin had done? When Chen Jin flew back to China to start his career, he got some research funding from Shanghai Jiao Tong University. Dr. Chen really wanted to use that money to build his own DSP chip. But of course, the money is not enough, and also it's too soon. Okay, so even reach the deadline for reporting the result, he still cannot develop that chip. So he told the first lie. He portrayed a chip from a foreign company and sandpaper its logo and print its logo Hanxin to it. So the chip that you see here, okay, this Hanxin logo originally was not there. Chen Ji just sandpapered the original one and print this Hanxin logo, okay, to this chip. Originally, Dr. Chen just wanted to buy time. He hoped that after sending this research result to the senior management, he can have time to continue the research to build the real DSP chip. However, his senior management seemed to be too excited about his breakthrough in IC design. So they want to demonstrate this achievement in the news conference. But the problem is, the chip that Chen Jin portrayed from that foreign company is too simple. It cannot have the capability of playing MP3 or doing fingerprint recognition. So now Chen Jin need to make an even bigger lie. He bought another chip. This one is really a DSP chip from Motorola, 68,000. Okay, so he used the same trick, sandpaper the logo and then print his logo on it. Okay, this chip has the capability that can play MP3 and do fingerprint recognition. This is a state-of-the-art DSP chip at the time. But one interesting thing is that this DSP chip actually is much bigger than the Hanxin 1 chip he originally submitted. This chip, 68,000, has 208 pins, but the Hanxin 1 chip has only 144 pins. So it's much bigger. But however, for the whole new conference, no one aware this difference. And then how about the Hanxin 2 and Hanxin 3 chip that Dr. Chen developed? These two chips were really developed by Chen's team, but he did not have the IP of these two chip core. Okay, Dr. Chen again bought the core from another company, put into this Hanxin 2 Hanxin 3, and then put some peripheral on it to become these two chips. Okay, more importantly, Hanxin 2 Hanxin 3 also could not perform complex tasks like playing MP3 or performing fingerprint recognition on their own. And I have mentioned before, Chen was not working as senior chip design manager in Motorola. He was just a testing engineer with no experience in chip design. So when this scandal spread out, then Chen Jin was fired from Shanghai Jiao Tong University and stripped off his honor and privilege, including the title of a Changchang Scholar. He was also banned from conducting further state-funded research and also required to return all research funding obtained from the government. So it introduced some problem to him because he has spent some part of the research funding. The news soon spread out all over the world. I still remember that when I heard this news, I was in the international conference in Canada. So all my friends from different countries comes to me, ask me about the detail of this case. It's really embarrassing to answer all these questions. China became a laughingstock for allowing such an event to happen. It also seriously jeopardized the reputation of Shanghai Jiao Tong University. So these are all the news report, okay, of the event at the time. As I mentioned at the very beginning, the research misconduct of oneself does only affect himself. It may also affect the organization that he's working in and also the country that he lives in. Just like this case, Impacted by the scandal, the innovation in China IC sector was questioned and many projects were suspended. The China government became more and more suspicious to all these IC research projects. Many of them were delayed, suspended, or even cancelled. The government financial and policy support was severely reduced accordingly. At that time, China became more reliant on chips import from the US, Taiwan, Japan, South Korea, etc. The situation continued until 2014, when the National Integrated Circuit Industry Investment Fund was established and the release of the outline of the program for National Integrated Circuit Industry Development by the State Council. The scandal was spread out in 2004, and the situation continued until 2014. So altogether, 10 years. 10 years is very, very long for electronic industry, particularly for IC industry. 10 years is enough for us to have a few generations of IC. So due to the scandal, China lagged behind other competitors for nearly 10 years in IC design. Although there are other factors that lead to the delay, but this scandal played an important part of it. And this led to great difficulty, as you see in the news, for the electronic industry in China, particularly when President Donald Trump forbade the US IC design technology from importing China in 2019. Even until now, China still cannot develop a very advanced chip at 40 nanometer, although we are good at they are developing chip in 28 nanometer. But for the higher one, we still have a lot of problem. Right, so let me summarize what we have discussed today. At the very beginning, I said that scientific research is based on trust, or the advancement of knowledge and technology will be much slower. That's why anyone who is found to breach the trust, particularly due to research misconduct, will be seriously punished. For students, they will be deregistered. For the employee, they will be dismissed. And for professional, they will be last disqualified. And there are three main acts for research misconduct. Fabrication is to fabricate data research results without actually doing experiment. Falsification is about covering up the poor data and only report good data. And plagiarism is to copy research results from other people without citation. Different stakeholders have put forward measures in recent years to avoid research misconduct. And anyone who practices research misconduct will leave a lifelong red mark, just like the case of the Harvard president. And research misconduct of individuals may not only affect oneself, but can have a far-reaching effect, as you can see in the Tianjin State case. Okay, so this is the thing I want to discuss today. So do you have any question or anything you want to share? If no, then remember to do quiz 5. The deadline for quiz 5 will be extended for 1 more week because next week we have Chinese New Year. So we also don't have a class next week. Okay, right. So see you after the Chinese New Year, and also wish you a happy Chinese New Year. Bye-bye.